Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, Salatu Salam Rasulullah. This is Catherine Jones, the Peaceful Parenting Coach, coming back live again today with more of our Parenting for Paradise. More of connecting the Quran with our parenting, the act of worship with parenting, that parenting is in fact an act of worship. And I'd love to encourage you to have a look at the notes that come with this video and click on the link and register for my training, because anyone who enters that training in Ramadan enters in wa alaikum salam wa barakatuh, and anyone who enters is eligible for one of 5 opportunities to join the 6-step peaceful parenting system. It's a prize that I will draw after Eid, the day after Eid, Sha Allah, just to make sure that, because we're way ahead of everybody, so I figure if I did it the day after Eid, it made sure that Ramadan had finished for everybody else. Inshallah, you know how it is. So click on that link, and don't just click on the link for the competition, actually listen to the training, inshallah, as well. So today I'm covering the topic that was asked of me a number of days ago about children being ungrateful, or so ingratitude. And as I have been doing in all these sessions, I'm going to challenge us first, and I'm really starting with reminding myself before anyone else, because you know what, probably just about an hour ago I was having a moment of ingratitude. I was lost in my own head of ingratitude, and alhamdulillah, you know, it almost stopped me coming out to my office, because my office is outside and it's winter here and it's freezing cold, and I thought, I'm in such a grumpy mood anyway, might as well just, you know, give it a miss tonight, because it's like around 10ish at night now. Yeah, almost 10 o'clock at night here now. And I thought, no, I'm going to break this. I'm not going to allow this mood to stop me earning reward from Allah. And I am going, considering the topic was about gratitude, I thought, well, that's exactly what I need to hear. So this is for me first and foremost, as anything that I say is. I mean, you know, really, most of my life I've taught what it is I need to hear myself. So, you know, you can probably, if you go back and track through the things that I've taught over the years, you could probably take a guess at to what my life's been through. Alhamdulillah. Anyway, back to the point. We're talking about gratitude. And the question that was asked of me was, what do you do about a child who is ungrateful? And I'm going to get to that, but I'm going to talk about us first. All right. And so here we go. We have, and I should have written this again, because I'm now going to be reading this backwards off the screen again like a goose. Chapter 31 verse 12, and indeed we bestowed upon Luqman al-Hikmah and wisdom. Give thanks to Allah, and whoever gives thanks, he gives thanks for the good of his own self. And whoever is unthankful, then verily Allah is all rich, free of all needs. What's that? Worthy of all praise. I couldn't read it. SubhanAllah. And I wanted to show you this next verse at the same time, because it has a really very similar thing, just slightly different phrasing. And this was to about Solomon alayhi salam. It looks like I'm having the odd connection problem, so if things go blank, just be patient and I will come back. You know, don't disappear. But hopefully it won't happen. So here we go in chapter 27 verse 40, and this is in talking about the Prophet Solomon alayhi salam. This is by the grace of my Lord to test me whether I am grateful or ungrateful, and whoever is grateful, truly his gratitude is for his own self, and whoever is ungrateful, he is ungrateful only for the loss of his own self. Certainly my Lord is free of all needs and bountiful. So you see, subhanallah, beautiful verses here, because it's saying that our gratitude to Allah is actually for our own benefit. And one of the things, if you've ever followed any of these kind of people who coach people, with for positiveness and for abundance and all this sort of thing, they always say be grateful, have gratitude. And this is not necessarily an Islamic thing. This is a universal thing. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us here in the Quran in 2 different verses in conjunction with 2 different people that gratitude is for our own selves. Being grateful is for our own selves. And if we're not grateful, we're the ones that are at a loss. And that's a great reminder for me, because as I was saying a bit earlier, about an hour ago, I was being very ungrateful, walking around with the woe is me kind of attitude. We've just had a really different Ramadan this year. We haven't really been a part of the community at all. The last 10 days, it's just been a constant stream of everybody being sick, with the last few days me being sick. And so we haven't been able to join iftars. We haven't been able to go into Taraweeh or any of those sorts of things. But alhamdulillah, I've actually been able to connect with all of you online, and that's been an absolute blessing. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'm really grateful for so many things. And I'm no longer walking around with my tail between my legs, as they say, as a saying, feeling sorry for myself. And how does this all connect with parenting? Well, in those moments when I was feeling ungrateful, I wasn't actually a very nice parent. I wasn't a mean parent, but I was a very disconnected, wasn't listening to my kids, wasn't connecting with them, and wasn't showing a great deal of interest. So I was being a very disconnected, not so loving parent, a little bit snappy, I'll have to admit as well. And so if we're in the mode of being ungrateful, then we're not being good parents as well. So this is a very interesting connection here. So it is for our own selves. When we're being grateful to Allah, we actually psychologically are in a good place. We are in a much better place. We're focusing on the good. We're focusing on the abundance. We're focusing on what's going right. And this is very good for us, psychologically. And so then when we're in that space, we're much better parents. So it is very relevant to parenting, because as my thing is, it was all about parenting. I connect everything back to parenting. So it says here, give thanks to Allah. Whoever gives thanks, he gives thanks for his own good. And whoever is unthankful, verily Allah is all rich, free of all needs, worthy of all praise. So here, both of them end with, certainly my Lord is free of all needs, bountiful. And so it's showing us that Allah doesn't need our gratitude. Doesn't need our gratitude at all. And, he's free of needing us. We need him. And, he is worthy of all praise. He's bountiful. He is, free of any needs. SubhanAllah. So I'm gradually working my way back to the parenting question, which was about the ingratitude in children. So the next thing I want you to think about is, how often are we ungrateful to Allah? How often are we walking around going, woe is me? This isn't good enough. This isn't good enough. I'm having a hard time with this. I don't like that, blah, blah, blah. Thinking about all the negatives, focusing on all the negatives. How often are we doing that? How often are we showing our ingratitude to Allah? And yet here we are having this high almighty attitude that our children need to be grateful to us. If we can't show gratitude to Allah first and foremost, how can we expect our children to show gratitude towards us? Where are they going to learn gratitude from if we're not demonstrating it in our gratitude to Allah? And the other thing to remember is that we show gratitude to Allah by showing gratitude to Allah's creation. So that's, in other words, demonstrating gratitude in the way we walk and the way we live our life in all aspects of life. inshallah. So we need to be the role models first. If we want our children to know how to be grateful, we need to show gratitude, and we need to have the language of gratitude. We need to be making sure that even when things seem to be going wrong, we're saying, that's okay, alhamdulillah, everything is from Allah. Everything will be all right, alhamdulillah. And not getting into that woe is me, whingy, whiny, complaining, frustrated, and all those other things that come to mind. So this is the first part I wanted to challenge us on, is that if we want our children to be grateful to us, then we have to demonstrate gratitude, and our gratitude needs to be to Allah first, and to Allah's creation, of course, as well, because that's how we show gratitude to Allah, is to his creation as well. And then inshallah our children at least have something to model from. I've got another piece of the puzzle here I want to tell you about. So here in verse, let me put it in where you can see it on the screen, verse 14, chapter 14, verse 7, if you are grateful, Allah will surely increase you in favor. And so how we understand that is that if we're grateful for something, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is likely to bless us with more. So if we want our children to be more grateful to us, then maybe we need to be more grateful to Allah, and maybe that will increase the gratitude our children have to us. Did you think of it that way? I looked at that and I thought, yeah, that could be part of the puzzle. That could be a clue for us, that the more grateful we are to Allah, the more Allah will bless us in having gratitude from others, including our children. And of course, never forget the dua of a parent is one of those powerful dua. So we can always be making dua for our children to be guided to being grateful. Not grateful to us, grateful full stop. Grateful to Allah first, grateful in general. And then if they have that attitude of gratitude, yeah, I've heard that before, attitude of gratitude, then they're more likely to show that gratitude towards us as well. Okay, so this is the Quranic side, but now I'm actually going to teach you a little bit about one of the sorts of things that we go through in my 6-step peaceful parenting system. And one of the real misconceptions that a lot of parents have about children, and children being ungrateful. So what we often see is, Eid is coming. Let's use Eid as an example, because Eid is coming, Sha Allah. Okay? So, the big day's coming. The kids are anticipating it. I don't know what your traditions are, but I know a lot of traditions of a lot of families are that children get given money and gifts and all this sort of thing on Eid, kind of reward them for their fasting and part of the celebration. Especially here in the West, because we compete with all the pagan rituals, we try to make a big deal of Eid to, so that our children don't feel that they're missing anything. So they have this great day, they get up in the morning and there's all these great wonderful things, and they go visiting and there's wonderful food, and there's Eid festivals and lots of rides and more food and lots of lollies and lots of attention. And at the end of the day, you get home and they're the worst creatures you've ever seen on earth. And what does a parent think in that moment? How ungrateful. How ungrateful. They've had this, they've had that, I've given them that, I've given them all this time and attention and money and food. They've had everything, and how can they possibly be so ungrateful? Well, I'm actually going to bust that misconception today, inshallah. Now, with children, the way we look at children in peaceful parenting is that children are either on track or off track. If they're on track, it means they feel really warmly connected, and they feel the loving connection with us. And so they're thinking well, their thinking is all good, they're compliant, they're so they'll do as they're told, they're reasonable, so if we have to negotiate something, they'll negotiate, they have good impulse control. Generally speaking, they will behave as we would like them to behave. Then you have children who are off track. And off track children, what the cause of off track is that they're feeling disconnected from us. Now, this can be for a number of reasons. It can be in a day like Eid. It will most likely be because it's been a really hectic day of coming and going and people coming and going and lots happening and lots of eating and adults being preoccupied with either entertaining people or visiting people or doing this or doing that. And it's one of those days where we're not still and we're not connecting with our kids. We're not kind of there with them, connected with them. If we're at an Eid festival, for instance, a lot of the time they might be off with their friends, they might be off on rides. Yes, they're having a wonderful time, but they're not connected to us. We're not connected to them because often we're actually focused on our relationships, with our friendships and talking to the people that we enjoy. And so what happens is at the end of the day, when the family comes together at home, is those children are disconnected, and what they're needing, Assalamu alaikum Ra, welcome. What they're needing is to be reconnected. And when you get that whiny behavior, that tantrums, the crying, the disobedience, the obstinance, all those, the stubbornness, all these sorts of things going on, it's not ingratitude. It's not the child being ungrateful for everything that's happened in that day. It's the child being disconnected and showing that they're disconnected, and what they're needing in that moment is their parent to connect with them. One of the key problems with that particular scenario is we're usually tired, stuffed full of food, and don't feel like it. And so it can actually be a really messy end to a beautiful day. So I hope that's helped blow the myth about ingratitude. Now it can actually be connected to all sorts of different scenarios. And the sister who asked the question about a child being ungrateful didn't really specify a scenario, so I can't really put it in the perspective of the scenario that she might have been talking about. But I would like us to think, when we see a child being ungrateful, instead of judging them. So go back to yesterday's class when we were talking about judging children and putting labels on their behavior and putting them in boxes. Step back from that and just go, this child is off track. When a child is off track, it's really simple. What they're needing is that loving connection with their parent. They need to be connected again. When you're able to re-establish that connection with them, then they will come back on track. There's a little bit more to it, and I really can't teach the whole 6-step peaceful parenting system in one session. I just wanted today more to break that myth, break that misconception, and start having parents looking at children from a different perspective. Children are little humans. They're not something for us to train like a pet. They are little humans, and they need to be treated like little humans. And in saying that, understanding that they are little, the little part of the humans, meaning that they're still immature, there's still a lot of brain development to happen, there's still a lot of learning about life to happen, and so all this stuff needs to be taken into consideration when we're looking at their behavior. So just to quickly wrap up what we went through today, especially for those that have sort of joined us late. What happened is, a few days ago, a sister asked a question about what do you do about a child who is ungrateful. And so what I did is I started with 2 verses from the Quran which talk about our being grateful to Allah, and that gratitude to Allah is for our own selves, and that if we're not grateful to Allah, then we're the ones that are at loss. And I talked a little bit about how, there's a lot of programs, even non-Muslim programs out there, talk about gratitude being an important way, to feeling abundant, to feeling, psychologically in a good place. And what I then went on to talk about was the verse in the Quran that says, if you are grateful, Allah will surely increase you in favor. And so saying, well, maybe our first step to our children being grateful to us is for us to first show gratitude to Allah, and then He'll bless us with more gratitude in our life from the people around us. And then I moved from there onto a little bit of an explanation of one of the key concepts that we teach in the 6-step peaceful parenting system, which is about how children, when they're being ungrateful, is probably more of an indication that they're off track and feeling disconnected from us rather than ungrateful, and that if we re-establish that connection with them, that their behavior will come on track and break that myth of ingratitude. So I used the example of Eid and the busy day of Eid, and how children get so many blessings on Eid, and then at the end of the day it can be a lot of tantrums and crying and big behavior from the children, and parents thinking how ungrateful they are. And I wanted, especially with Eid not being that far away, give parents a different perspective to look at that, inshallah, that it's not ingratitude, it's probably a symptom of the hectic, disconnected day that everyone's had, doing all sorts of things, and that they're needing reconnection at the end of the day with their parents. So that kind of summarizes what we went through today, and it was really awesome to have you here. If anyone has a question or a comment or something, an insight that they got out of that, please feel free to type that comment. Even if you're listening to this as a replay, I love to see your comments and thoughts about it, or questions that you have about it, even after the event, because I do come back and check them and answer any questions, inshallah. So the other thing, while I'm just giving some time in case there are some questions, there's a link with this video. If you sign up on the link, Parenting for Paradise, it will take you through to a training that I've done, which is talking about how we can turn our stressful parenting into blissful worship. So how we can turn running around after our children into worship this Ramadan. And anyone who enters during Ramadan will enter into a competition. 5 people at the end of Ramadan will be gifted with the 6-step peaceful parenting system, which is valued at $497, so that's pretty awesome. You'll get to join my next group that are going through the 6-step peaceful parenting system and get to learn more about this way of parenting, inshallah. So make sure that you, if you haven't already done so, that you join, click on that link and register, inshallah. So awesome. Hi Jennifer, so great to see you here. And Mariam, so assalamu alaikum. Mariam's one of my students from Switzerland. Good to see you. Who else is here? So not too many questions or anything today. That's okay. If you think of something later, you can come back and type it, and I'll do my best to answer it, inshallah. If you've typed something and I miss it, tag me in it, because sometimes I get so many things in my newsfeed, it's pretty hard to sort out the wood for the forest. Make sure I don't miss something. Okay, well, if there's no questions or comments or anything, I'll leave you for this evening with Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. For those who are here who aren't Muslim, that's a little Arabic supplication that we make that sort of asks forgiveness for anything that we might have said or done together that might be displeasing to Allah, so that we leave the gathering in a positive way. And then we conclude with Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, which of course is the Islamic greeting of peace. So we leave in peace, inshallah. I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. My plan is to pick a particular time for the rest of Ramadan to be online every night. My hope is it'll be 9:30 my time, which is almost an hour earlier than now. So it's about 10:20 now. So for wherever you are in the world, if you come nearly an hour, about 50 minutes earlier than this, Sha Allah, I'll be on live each day with a topic connecting the Quran with parenting for parenting, so because we're parenting for paradise, inshallah. Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.